Hey everyone, welcome back to Tableau Certified Data Analyst Exam Prep. In this tutorial, we're going to be covering part 2 of Domain 2. In part 1 of Domain 2, we covered sections 2.1 through 2.5. So in this tutorial, we will be covering sections 2.6 through 2.8. For section 2.6, you won't see any tricky questions related to hierarchies or groups, but you should still know how to create a hierarchy, how to create a group, or how to create a folder to organize your data. There may be a question that asks you specific details about how to create combined sets, and you may also see a hands-on question that asks you to create bins from a continuous measure. So we will be focusing on those two in this tutorial. For sections 2.7, you just need to know how to create a basic map. Okay, so creating a basic symbol map or creating a basic field map, there will definitely be a hands-on question that asks you to create a simple map. There was a good number of questions that came from section 2.8. So for example, adding a reference line. So choosing a constant reference line versus computer reference line, or choosing the trend line and being able to read an output of a trend line or identify the significance of a relationship. They may also ask you to forecast future sales values and customize the forecasting model. So make sure you spend some time reviewing all the topics in this particular section. All right, guys, let's take a look at some questions. In this question, we're told that we've created 4 different sets based on sales values. So we have our first set, which represents top 5 customers. Our second set represents top 5 products. And then we have 2 additional sets that represent the bottom 5 for both customers and products. And the question is asking us which sets cannot be combined. So as you know, in Tableau, you can actually combine 2 sets together. But there's a condition that has to be met. So these sets must be based on the same dimensions in order to be combined together. So we, for example, can combine the top 5 customers with the bottom 5 customer sets, but we cannot combine the top 5 customers with the top 5 product sets because they are based on different dimensions. So the answer for this question is E. You may also see a hands-on question where they create a set for you and then they ask you to visualize that set and compare it to the rest of the data points. So let's take a look at this example. So here they're asking us to create a scatter plot using the bottom 5 customer set to show how these customers compare to the rest with respect to profit and sales. So we're going to create our scatter plot first. So let's go ahead and select profit and sales using Control. We're going to open the Show Me menu, and then we're going to select the scatter plot. Next, we want to indicate the level of detail for the scatter plot. So since we're looking at customer information, we're going to drag our customer name into detail. And so now each data point represents a unique customer. Next, I'm going to change the mark type to a filled circle. So I'll click on this drop-down menu under Marks card. I'm going to choose Circle, and then I'll bring in the bottom 5 customer set. So we're going to grab the bottom 5 customer set. We're going to drag it on color, right? So now we can easily see where these specific customers are in relation to the overall population of customers. I also like to add a little border. So this is not necessary, but I personally like to add a white border around each data point. And that really allows you to see kind of like the density around the data points as well, if we were to decrease the opacity here. You may also see a question that asks you to create bins from a continuous measure. So here we want to convert sales into bins with discrete set of bins equal to 500. And then we want to create a histogram that shows how many products fall into each bin. So we're going to click on our sales measure. We're going to choose Create Bins. We're going to specify 500 for the size of bins. Once we click OK, Tableau is going to create a discrete field for us and move it to the top under our dimensions section. So we're going to drag the sales bin into columns. Now the last step would be to actually count the number of products that fall into each of these bins. So we're going to bring in our product name information, drop it into rows, and then we're going to click on the product name information, navigate under measure, and we're going to select count. And so this is going to give us the count of products within each bin. Like I mentioned before, there's going to be a very simple question that asks you to create a map. So in this case, we are asked to create a filled map to show profit by state. So to create a map in Tableau, we would just double click on the dimension that represents geographic information. So in this case, we have our state field, which has a geographic role that is set to state/province. So we're going to double click on it. And as you can see, Tableau automatically brought in the latitude and longitude generated values, and Tableau uses these particular measures in order to create maps. So here we're looking at a state map, and we need to convert it to a field map. So there's two different ways in which we can convert this particular map to a field map. One way is to click on the marks card and then choose map. The other way would be to use the show me menu. So we would click on the show me menu, and then we would choose this option right here for maps. So to complete this question, all we have to do is drag profit to color. And so as you can see, Tableau assigns two different colors to our positive values and negative values. And if you take a closer look at the color legend on the right-hand side here, we can see that any negative values are represented here in orange, and all the positive values are represented here in dark blue. In this question, we want to use a custom shape to map our branch locations. The question is asking us, what are the steps that we need to take in order to import a custom shape into Tableau? And so all the listed steps here are correct, except D. So for option D, it says that we're creating a new folder within my Tableau repository and we're saving our new custom shape there. That is incorrect because there's an additional folder within the My Tableau repository folder specifically for shapes. So essentially what you need to do is you need to navigate over to the shapes folder, create a new custom shapes folder, and then you want to save your custom shape in there. If you're not familiar with this process, make sure to review it. So for sections 2.6 and 2.7, make sure you're comfortable creating and combining sets. Make sure you're also comfortable creating bins and using bins to create a histogram. You should also be able to create a map and use map navigation options, for instance, to select a specific set of marks using the lasso tool, or change your map from a symbol map to a filled map. I would also recommend reviewing the steps you would take in order to bring your own custom shapes into Tableau. And just as a reminder, I've included all the links to additional resources in the description of this video. Alright, so moving on to section 2.8, let's take a look at the reference line questions. So here, for the first step of this question, we want to create a bar chart that shows subcategory sales. Then we want to add a reference line to show the average sales values. And then in addition to that, we want to include a distribution band with standard deviation of -1 and 1 for the sample. So let's work through this question step by step. First, we want to bring in our subcategory information into columns. We're going to drag in our sales. We want to add a reference line to show the average sales value. So we're going to click on the Analytics tab. We're going to drag reference line and we're going to place it on table. And this is going to give us the average reference line. This question specifically asks for the average line sales value. So instead of showing the computation, in this case, which is the word average, what we want to do is we want to change the label to give us the actual value. Okay, and now we're showing the average sales value. So we're going to click OK. Next, we want to include a distribution band with the standard deviation information. So once again, we're going to click on reference line. We're going to bring it into our table. We're going to select distribution, and under value here, we're going to choose standard deviation. And as you can see, the default settings are actually set to the same settings that we are asked for in this particular question. So we're going to go with sample, and then for our factors, we're including -1 and 1. And now we can see the distribution band has been applied. So with these types of questions, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you review the different options available for you when customizing your reference lines or reference bands. So for example, if we go back to distribution over here, we can see that we can add percentages, percentiles, quantiles, and standard deviations. So make sure that you guys are comfortable customizing your reference lines or reference bands using these options. This question is pretty straightforward. It's asking us which model types are not available for trend lines in Tableau. And so as you can see, we have 5 different models to choose from when adding a trend line to our visualization. So linear, logarithmic, exponential, polynomial, and power. So the answer here is C. The option C for automatic without seasonality is actually a forecast model. In this exercise, we're looking at the output of a linear trendline model and we need to evaluate its significance. So in this case, we're interested in the p-value. The smaller the p-value is, the more significant the model is. For a model to be significant, its p-value must be less than or equal to 0.05. The p-value for this model is 35.7%. So this model is not significant. And the answer here is none of the above. This question is asking us to create a forecast to visualize future sales for the next 3 months. And we also want to set the prediction interval to 99%. So let's go ahead and create the forecast. We're going to click on the Analytics tab. We're going to select Forecast and drop it in. So as you can see, Tableau automatically created the forecast for us. So now we need to customize it. So we can right click on the empty space. We're going to choose Forecast, Forecast Options. We're going to set the forecast length to be 3 months. And then for the prediction interval, the default is usually the 95% option. So what you want to do is you want to change this to 99%. All right, so this is a pretty straightforward question. So here we're looking at a number of different functions, and the question is, which 2 functions can be used in Tableau to build a predictive model? And the answer here is H. So we actually have 2 different functions, C and E, model quantile and model percentile. And we can use these functions to make predictions on our data. Make sure you review the following for section 2.8. So you should be able to create custom reference lines and distribution bands. You should also be comfortable adding trend lines to your visualizations, as well as displaying statistical information about those trend lines. You should be able to look at the output of a trend line and evaluate its significance. And you should also have a good idea of what options you have when customizing your trend lines as well. The same applies to forecasting. So you should be able to apply a forecast to forecast future sales or future profit. You should be able to choose a specific model for your forecast and be able to evaluate the output of a forecast as well. When it comes to predictive modeling, I don't think you're going to see any sophisticated questions related to these 2 functions, but I would highly recommend that you guys know the difference between these 2 functions as well as the syntax. I would definitely recommend spending some extra time going over this particular section because the questions will be very specific and you will see both knowledge-based questions on this section as well as hands-on. So make sure you guys check out these resources. They are included in the description section of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned for a comprehensive overview of domains 3 and 4, and happy studying!